you should bid over the bid of your, or any over any of you. وَلَا يَخْطُبْ عَلَى خِطْبَةِ أَخِيهِ إِلَّا أَنْ يَأْذَنَ لَهُ. And nobody should propose over the proposal of somebody else unless they give permission. And this hadith is muttafaqun alayh. It's in Bukhari and Muslim. So we were talking about economics, but the Messenger of Allah combined two things together. He talked about economics and he talked about marriage. Because the way they're viewed in Sharia, in Islamic law, is that they're both contracts. And contracts are bound by things which are similar. There's conditions, there's things which invalidate the contract, etc., etc. So there's two principles here. Principle number one is that you cannot sell or bid over the sale of your brother. What does this mean? This means somebody thought that there's some people who misunderstand this hadith. They think that bidding in an auction is haram because of this hadith. So when people were on eBay, I don't know if anyone uses eBay anymore, but people bid and you put a little bit more money on top and it's, I'll give you $25. The person, no, I'll give you $26. I'll give you $27 for it. You go to a car auction, you have somebody else bidding and you say, oh, that person is bidding above me. That's not what the hadith is referring to. It's referring to a more specific situation, one of two situations. One situation, I think it's called shadow bidding or something like that. It's basically where you're bidding to simply raise up the price. So you know that Hussein wants to buy this for $30. And I come along and when they're bidding, it's at 27 and I just keep going, 28, he goes 29, I go 30, just to get the price up even though I was not interested in buying the thing. This is problem number one, forbidden in Islam, because it harms the other person unnecessarily. The second thing is, once somebody's already about to make a deal, they're making a transaction, and imagine they're in a market and they're negotiating, and the offer is already on the table, and say, you know what, for that thing, I can give you, $27.50. The person says, no, $28.50. Say, I think we can meet at 28. And all of a sudden, you're about to make a deal with somebody, and then somebody else comes along and says, I'll give you 29 for that, and messes up the entire transaction. What's going to happen? How are you going to feel towards that person? You're going to really have a problem. You're really not going to like that person. You messed up my entire deal. We were in the middle of something and you came in and you interfered and you messed up the whole thing. So he takes that and he applies it to marriage. Somebody is going and proposing to a girl, or vice versa. Right? Only guy proposing the girl, not a guy proposing the guy, vice versa. It has got opposite gender. Just want to clarify that, So someone goes and proposes, and you're talking, and the family's discussing, and then all of a sudden another person comes along and says, that guy, I make more, my family has higher status, why don't you consider us? So this now would be the same problem. Imagine you were in talks with somebody for purposes of marriage, and then somebody else comes along and interferes and cuts in between, and this happens, by the way. Somebody else cuts in between. How would you feel towards that person? You hate that person for the rest of your life. You messed up my opportunity. But where's the line? Where do you draw the line? There's a common question I get all the time. If somebody's on the Salams app, on the Muz app, on the Halal, what's it called? Half our Deen or something like that, and you're talking to someone, are you allowed to talk to more than one person at a time for the purpose of marriage, for the purpose of halal marriage? People say, no, the hadith is clear. You cannot interfere in the proposal of somebody else. Talking to somebody, just having a sit down or a chat conversation about what are your goals in life and marriage is not the level of proposal. So Imam Malik, 1250 years ago, he defined this specifically. He said there's a stage called rukun. And rukun is when the situation becomes serious. There's a difference between sitting down and talking to someone for the first meeting and someone you've been meeting them 5 times, you've met their family, you're discussing, things are looking good, but there is no promise, there's no khutbah, there's no engagement technically, and there's no nikah, there's no contract. But then you come and you intervene when the situation was very serious. That is something which the Prophet ﷺ forbade, told us not to do that. Some scholars said it's makruh, it's not technically haram, regardless of that difference of opinion. It's something that we should avoid because the mentality comes back down to إِلَّا أَن يَأْذَنَ لَهُ, unless He allows it. Because if He doesn't, and you've invested all this time, you're going to develop a hatred towards your brother or towards your sister who intervened and cut you off and messed up all the effort that you put in. So the general principle, be kind and be generous to everyone else. This applies in all aspects of our lives. When someone is investing so much time and effort into something and you come in and you mess it up for them, imagine how they're going to feel towards you. Think about the amount of time and effort somebody has put in, how excited, how invested they are in that thing, and say, you know what, do I really need to intervene here, or can I go and find another opportunity somewhere else? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put this rahmah and our mercy in our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us wisdom to recognize when it's allowed and when it's not allowed. Ameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.